From the wide, sweeping bend of the Delaware River, you see Philadelphia before you even step foot on its wharves. It is the summer of 1776, and the largest city in the American colonies rises from the Pennsylvania landscape like a beacon of brick, timber, and soaring ambition. The elegant white steeple of Christ Church punctures the sky, its bells carrying across the water, a sound audible long before the ship drops anchor. You step off the boat at the bustling docks. The air is thick with the smell of the river, wet canvas, curring tobacco, and raw pine. The city does not have ancient medieval walls. Instead, it is bordered by the vast wilderness to the west and the ocean's reach to the east. Inside its neat, grid-like streets, laid out by William Penn almost a century ago, nearly 30,000 souls live, labor, scheme, and survive. Philadelphia stands at the precipice of its greatest and most terrifying moment. But before it is the birthplace of a nation, it is a working, breathing machine. You walk up High Street and the city draws you in. The brick houses with their symmetrical windows and smoking chimneys represent order, but beneath that order is a chaotic, desperate struggle for existence. A bell tolls, marking the start of the trading day. Descending into the commercial heart, you enter the High Street Market, where Philadelphia feeds itself. The sheer volume of life here is overwhelming. Wooden stalls stretch for blocks. The ground is a mix of dirt, crushed oyster shells, and the slick residue of the butcher's blocks. Thomas Carter works in his butcher's stall, surrounded by hanging carcasses. Beef from the rich Pennsylvania farmland, pork from local homesteaders. His apprentice, a 10-year-old boy named William, scrapes bone and fat into a wooden bucket, his hands raw and scarred. Thomas brings down his cleaver with a deafening thud, splitting a ribcage in seconds. A woman approaches, inspecting a cut of mutton, her mind calculating meals against the ever-shrinking value of colonial paper money. 2 shillings, Thomas declares. 18 pence, she counters, eyes narrowed. They settle somewhere in between. Here, commerce is not an abstract concept. It is face-to-face, penny by penny, fought tooth and nail. Around them, the symphony of the city roars, the rhythmic ringing of the blacksmith's hammer, the clatter of cartwheels, vendors screaming the prices of oysters. The river flows alongside the city like a vital artery. At the deep-water wharves, laborers, many of them indentured servants or enslaved men, haul heavy cargo in a brutal, practiced rhythm. They carry West Indian rum and smuggled French gunpowder, their backs bending under the weight of empire. Just a few streets away from this grueling labor, merchant Robert Morris sits in his grand counting house. Before him are leather-bound ledgers, letters of credit from London, and secret contracts for smuggled goods. But he is not alone. His wife Mary sits across from him, rapidly reviewing the accounts from a ship that just docked from Barbados. The price of molasses is volatile. War is coming, and British cruisers are seizing merchant vessels. She calculates faster than Robert's clerk, suggesting they hold the cargo in the warehouses until the shortages drive the prices up. He nods in agreement. Thousands of pounds sterling hang on her arithmetic. Yet the law considers her legally invisible. She cannot vote. She cannot own this property independently. But behind the closed doors of Philadelphia's elite, she manages the empire while her husband argues politics at the State House. By mid-morning, the city is a furnace of routine. Keeping 30,000 people sheltered and fed requires a hidden army of laborers. In the printing shops, apprentices whose lungs are slowly filling with lead dust pull the heavy iron levers of the printing presses, churning out radical pamphlets. The work is relentless. For the women of the lower classes, necessity forces them into exhausting trades. Widow Sarah Gibbons runs a busy tavern near the docks. The law frowns upon women in such roles, but survival makes the authorities look away. Her hands bear the permanent burns of boiling stew, her spine aching from hauling heavy barrels of ale from the cellar. Beside her tavern, a local midwife rushes down the street clutching a bag of herbs, feverfew and pennyroyal. She delivered 20 bobbies last month. 5 did not survive the week. Mothers pay a few shillings for the living children and offer only silent tears for the dead ones. There is no time for prolonged grief in 1776. The next labor is always waiting. Children work everywhere. 7-year-olds haul water from the public pumps. 10-year-olds sweep the dirty floors of silversmiths. Childhood, for most, is a luxury that does not exist, but Philadelphia exists in the shadow of a looming catastrophe. It is the summer of 1776. The Continental Congress is meeting just blocks away at the State House. They are debating treason against the most powerful empire on earth. And here on the streets, the citizens must navigate a minefield of uncertain loyalties. To speak loudly is to risk everything. In the city tavern, men nurse their mugs of ale and speak carefully, casting nervous glances over their shoulders. A wealthy merchant complains that the radical patriots are destroying his trade. A dockworker curses the heavy royal taxes that keep his family starving. A loyalist quietly praises the king's order, praying the British army arrives to restore the peace. The tavern keeper hears all of it but repeats nothing. In this city, choosing the wrong side can mean a coat of hot tar and feathers, the confiscation of your home, or the hangman's noose. Most ordinary citizens are simply trying to keep their heads down. They want to keep working, keep trading, keep their children fed. Politics is a dangerous game played by wealthy men in powdered wigs. For the butcher, the baker, and the widow, the revolution is a heavy, suffocating anxiety, a pressure that never lifts. As the afternoon sun begins to dip, Baker William Bradford slides his 50th loaf into the brick oven. He has been awake since 3 in the morning. His shop reflects the harsh class divide of the colony. He bakes fine, white wheat bread for the merchants and politicians. He bakes a coarser, mixed rye bread for the tradesmen. And for the poorest souls, he bakes dark, heavy loaves of oats and barley. Old Margaret, a woman whose face is lined with decades of hard colonial life, walks in and places a few worn copper pennies on the counter. She buys yesterday's stale barley bread, clutching it to her chest like a holy relic. That single, hard loaf is dinner, breakfast, and the only hope that her grandchildren won't cry themselves to sleep from the gnawing pain of hunger. She steps back out into the dusty street, a silent ghost in the machinery of the city. When the church bells ring at 8 o'clock, the city transforms. The vibrant, chaotic energy of the day evaporates. The Watch, a small group of men armed with long wooden clubs and glowing iron lanterns, begins their patrol through the darkened streets. Much of Philadelphia goes completely black. Most people simply go to bed. Tallow candles are expensive, and beeswax is a luxury reserved for the rich. In the tiny, cramped homes of the working poor, the hearth fires are banked to save precious firewood. Families huddle together under thin wool blankets, lying in absolute darkness, listening to the scurrying of rats, waiting for the safety of dawn. The rhythm of this city is dictated by the harshness of the elements as much as by the threat of war. Winter is a terrifying prospect. The Delaware River sometimes freezes solid, choking off all trade and food supplies. Disease is a constant specter. A rumor of smallpox can send the entire city into a panic. To live in 1776 is to live at the absolute mercy of nature and politics. You are always just one harsh winter, one failed harvest, or one British warship away from total ruin. The sun finally sets behind the Pennsylvania State House. The bells of Christ Church ring, their voices washing over the brick and timber. You have walked Philadelphia for one day in the summer of 1776. You have seen apprentices labor before dawn. You have felt the silent, grinding anxiety of a people standing on the edge of a brutal war. This is not the romanticized, polished history of marble statues and flawless heroes. This is a working city, where survival depends on endurance, skill, and sheer luck, where the ideals of liberty are debated in grand halls, while the common folk bleed and sweat in the muddy streets outside. In a matter of weeks, the men in that state house will sign a declaration that will change the world forever. Blood will soak the American soil. But tonight, the baker sleeps, the night watchman walks his route, and 30,000 souls do what humans have always done. They wake, they work, they eat, they pray, and they hope. The cobblestone streets will endure. The spirit of the people will outlast the coming empire's wrath. And though centuries separate that Philadelphia from ours, the rhythm feels profoundly familiar. The quiet anxiety of uncertain times. The grinding labor of making a living. and the resilient hope that tomorrow, against all odds, we will survive. That is the true story of America. The bell rings, the city sleeps, the revolution begins.